Hey everybody, it's a Smoking DM. I've seen a few topics of interest that I would like to go over real quick with the community and just throw in my two copper about the situation. The two subject matter that I keep coming across as of late, maybe it's just a hot topic lately, or it's a popular thing, or maybe everybody's trying to get their thesis in D&D done for their college credit. I have no idea. I'm being very facetious. But anyways, the two things are immersion and bleed. Two different subject matters, but also are very intertwined if you think about it. Because the more somebody puts into craft, activity, hobby, such as Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Vampire, etc., the more time you invest into something, the more attached you are to the character, the world, the environment, the more it's going to hurt when your character dies. But that's the sad truth of role-playing games, is when you play a profession that is dangerous and outstandingly not readily available. You know, the adventurers and the heroes of many different campaign settings are unique, and it's not supposed to be a dime a dozen. Because if everybody was an adventurer, you wouldn't have anybody to stick around and cobble shoes or ferment cheese. Just weird stuff that run the inn. So there's got to be some sort of consequences for going out and slaying a dragon and taking its hoard. If not, then dragons would be extinct and everybody would be rich. So it's a balancing act as far as I'm concerned. You want to put your players in the feeling of peril, but you don't want to give them a cakewalk, and you don't want them to feel daunted and hopeless, essentially. You don't want them to, it's one thing to have like a backup character because shit happens, and it's good to have something on the side that's leveled up, ready to play, jump right back into the game. I'm all for that as a DM and a player, but it's another thing to have 2 or 3 backup characters just because you go and play with this particular dungeon master and it is a slaughter fest. So be ready. If not, they'll just keep going without your ass. I've been in groups like that. I've played for a lot of groups, but when it comes down to immersion, my particular reason that I'm doing this video is because I felt like there was really one thing that perturbed me the most about everybody's point of view about immersion, and it seems like a lot of people that consider themselves experts at playing Dungeons and Dragons and running games seem to leave out one vital thing. They have the problem. It's not you guys. It's not the players. I mean, you're there. You showed up. The DM's job is to entertain you. So he has one of two options. One, pick and choose exactly who he wants to bring to his table. He already knows your play style. He already knows what kind of player you are. And I'll get onto a couple of examples of what I feel generally what are some player types are. And he just doesn't particularly care for that type of player. There's somebody that's story enriched, and they have a guy that's a power gamer that loves to min-max his character, go out there and do the most potential that he can with the resources that are available to him. And they don't care about the story. They'll smash through it as fast as they can just to get to the encounter. Hey, that's fine, because you're making that player happy. All right, so first option is, pick and choose. But see, here's a problem, though. When you pick and choose, you exclude. You take other people that could potentially enrich your game in ways that you're not familiar with because you're kind of stuck in your own routine that you've been doing for the last X amount of years. And you're really missing the opportunity to enrich yourself and learn more about people in general because, mildly, you have to be a humanitarian. Humanitarian in the sense that, you don't necessarily want to help the world per se, but you definitely want to help players come back and play again. So, like I was saying, along the first lines, you can pick and choose who you want to play with, you, in your group. And with enough resources online and forums and stuff like that, you can do that. It's not an impossible option. It's a little bit more difficult, I would imagine. Yeah, it's not impossible. You can definitely do that if you wanted to. The other option two, is ask, facilitate. Because, it's one thing to guess why your players like to come here, and it's totally another thing to have such an ego about the situation that you know what good role playing is. You know what good D&D is all about. It's about the story, or it's about the mechanics, or it's about the rules, or it's about being an interloper. You know what I'm saying? Like your character's just the bad guy. You just like being a bad guy. But simply put, you can include and learn a lot from people if you simply ask them, what draws you to this table every week? Why do you come back? And there's a myriad of reasons. Like a couple of reasons for immersion. A player might feel immersed, did I say? Because immersion is not necessarily just about story. That isn't. You draw a good map, that's immersion. You have a good introduction to your encounter. That's great immersion. You have an NPC that's fully fleshed out with a story to tell. It's totally immersive. You have a general story of your whole campaign to put immersion into the players themselves. But immersion comes in a lot of different ways, like the typical power gamers. The people that love to hit and hit hard. Kick in the door, beat the crap out of something, and take its stuff. Well, that's going to happen eventually. So they're pretty easy to work with, but give them the extra out that they want. If they roll a 1 and that's what, bums them out the most because they really don't give a crap about most of the other stuff. They just want to roll a natural 20. Well, maybe, make a feat for them or something like that. Once per day when you roll a 1, you may re-roll or something. You can work with a player that way because that's what the game is about. It's about ultimate flexibility and being able to make the players come back. I mean, if they don't like the game, they're not going to come back to your table. Ifs, ands, or buts. Period. That's all there is to it. So you got power gamers, and then, you got the rules lawyer, the people that love the rules and such. Well, that's immersion too. They're opening a book. They're checking out a book inside. They're learning about rules and spells and all that general hodgepodge of stuff that goes in one place. So, immerse them. If anybody has a question about the rules or anything like that, make them the official, unofficial rules lawyer for your table. Hey, Mr. Rex, can you field me in on how Fireball works, as a lame example. But you understand, they get the opportunity to be immersed into that. But there's got to be a point. You can't let it detract from how much attention that they're actually paying to the game itself. So don't overburden that person, but give them the opportunity to do what they like. Look in the book, read rules. You got the people that are like really just there as a wallflower. They're spectators, as another type of person. And they are just simply immersed by watching. Well, let them watch. There ain't no harm in that. If they want to, there's a point between watching and interjecting, though. I mean, they got to have a say. They got to have a vote, make that evident to them when you talk to them about them. They're like, we go left or right? Which way do you want to go? They have to have a decision. Do we kill this guy or not? Have to have a decision. It's a party. It's not a dictatorship unless, that's how you wrote the story out. There's somebody's a leader of the group and everybody else sort of follows in line. But even then, you have in-party conflict, which can lead to a lot of good role-playing. Just sit there and talk to each other for a good hour or so in character about a decision that impacts them and it feels really relevant. That's immersion itself. And then you'll see the wallflower, what I call them, come out of the shell more and more and more and become more comfortable with the group and feel okay, and the group will accept them as they are and let them know it's okay. If you don't want to talk about something, just sit there and watch the game as it unfolds. That's perfectly fine. And you got the people like the story writers, per se. The people that don't necessarily care about your game or your story. They care about their character and that story. They don't, they you can throw as many different stories or tracks of interest for them to go off on, And it doesn't really matter because it always seems to come back to the story that they already written. That can be problematic. But it also can be an opportunity to get that person excited. They have a background that's a book, essentially, of like a whole bunch of crap. And, well, crap as a loose term. But yeah, all this shit, you take it in, and then you use some of that to throw it back at them and let them act out their story because that's all they want to do. You know, they want to find the guy that raped their wife, or the king's assassin, or fill in the blank. You know, really, whatever they want. You know, and then on top of that, you got your people that are just like the buddies that are there. You have a friend. He doesn't care. He just wants to come over, hit that shit up, you know, drink that shit up, be a little friendly, laugh, shit like that. That's fine too, you know, because that's their immersion. You know, they just want to hang out with some friends and have a few laughs, and that's pretty much, isn't it, what we are really trying to achieve when we get together, have fun. You know, but there's also, like I said, like the other types of immersion. You know, you got to have a level on that. You know, the guy might be immersed and stuff like that, but there's a difference between immersion and a full-blown alcoholic or drug addict, for that matter. But yeah, you know, it's all about moderation. You know, you hang out with your friends. You know, have a few drinks and shit like that. But you got to be able to focus. You got to be able to articulate words. You know, if you're all slurry in speech, you know, that's where you might have to draw a line. But also, again, you know, that goes back hand in hand with bleed. Bleed, a lot of, you know, terms of bleed pretty much means like that somebody's hurt, somebody's upset, somebody's generally disdained about events in the game, or maybe players in the game, or whatever. And how you get to work with that, my best conclusion is, at the end of the game, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15 tops, cut the game that much earlier than you normally would when you play, and have a debriefing. Talk about, you know, man, that really sucked when you fucking killed me. You know, I don't understand why you killed me, but now that you explained it to me from your character's point of view and why he did what he did, you were role-playing really well. That was good role-playing. And I did my job best to role-play my character. It's just too bad that when we came into a conflict with one another, you won and I did. I mean, that diffuses a lot of hostility and aggression that players might hold towards one another and never come back to your table just because they don't like a certain other player. I've seen that before. And it's a bummer that people get so bent out of shape over a game. And essentially that's what we got to keep in mind when we think about bleed. Have that in the forefront and the back front of your mind. It's a game. You know, it's supposed to be here for fun and entertainment. You know, if you feel personally that you're going into a group and they're just constantly picking on you and vindictive, and you're the end of the joke or whatever, find another group. Fuck those guys. You ain't got to play with a certain group of people. You know, just because you've been friends with these guys for 20 years doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend your weekend time doing your hobby with them. Like I said, there's other outlets. There's other ways to go about it. But, you know, as far as the debriefing is concerned and everything, though, if there's a real issue, people are standing up, people are raising their voice, people are getting pissed off, end the game, cut the game right there. Stop it. Stop it and talk out of character and resolve it immediately, because it's going to ruin the rest of your night. People are going to be holding grudges and shit for the rest of the game and not helping each other, not working together as a group. And I've been in a group personally like that where it was just like, wow, I felt excluded from the very start, and everybody else, you know, there was one character in particular, but everybody else was neither here nor there as far as saying one thing for my benefit or my detriment. So I was pretty much in limbo while, you know, this one character used their alignment essentially as a shield to bully me and my character, and I just had enough of it because the DM didn't intervene, the players didn't intervene, we didn't really talk out of game, so it was just like, you know, I want to go have fun. I don't want to have to go over there and have an argument with somebody for fucking 2 hours over treasure or something that doesn't really even exist. You know, that's what it boils down to. It's all fucking flights of fancy, you know, so really what it boils down to, and the long and the short for anybody, is enjoyment of the hobby and facilitating that enjoyment to other people. Because when you limit yourself by thinking this is how D&D should be, you lose out on a lot of potential of what D&D could be. And it's kind of like akin of like you'll never know those mysterious sides of life that are always on the opposite sides of that closed door. If you never open the door, you're never going to know what's over there. And when you have these problems that arise and people get hurt, it's good to think of ways to reunify them, work them together, make them feel like a team again. Give them a unifying story or objective to help build the community, the camaraderie of the people. It doesn't necessarily even have to be hard-hitting, you know, but you could go that route, you know, abduction, kidnapped of a loved one, you know, and usually when you do something like that, make it towards like the more evil character that gets screwed up the most, because it's a little bit easier on the sliding scale of alignment for a character to be like, well, I'll help you find your brother even though you're an asshole, versus the other way it's like, I could give a fuck about your brother. You see where I'm going with that. But it could even be comedic, you know, try to do something funny, get them to laugh, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to a farm, and there's a storm that just hit. All the animals are all over the place. It's the character's objective now to go out and chase down all these goddamn animals, rile them all up, bring them back alive, bring them back to the farm. You know, may not be the funniest storyline ever, but there's lots of potential for comedic value to be involved. Somebody falling in mud, somebody running at a fence after an animal and flying over the fence, or whatever. But those are just a few points that I would like to throw in there. The biggest one being really that I didn't really appreciate how I saw, I'm not saying any names, I've seen a lot of DMs talk about this lately, and all of them seem to be like, this is how it should be done. No, you're missing it. You're missing a lot about what people are. Everyone's different. And people come to your table for a vast amount of reasons. And my best advice, personally, as a DM, as a player, as a lover of this hobby, and I would just say, ask. Level with a person. We're all people, you know? As long as there's, you know, no language barrier or something like that, there shouldn't be any issue, right? So, that's all I got to really say about Immersion and Bleed. If you disagree, comment. If you agree, comment. If you want to just say, hey, go fuck yourself, write it in my comment section. Alright. Just another little quick video, just because I think I told you why a few times now. Don't edit yourself as a DM. That's my biggest contribution to this whole thing about Immersion and Bleed. Don't edit yourself. Don't close the door. Always be open to new ideas, because new ideas help evolve and grow your game and your gaming experience. And the more you learn about the players, the easier it is to facilitate towards what makes them come to play. Simple as that. At least I feel it's that simple. Some of the other people I've seen, maybe not so much. But, you know, when you're king shit on top of the mountain, it's easy to cast down edicts towards everybody. But hey, like I said, just my 2 coppers, and a peace sign. So take care.